Welcome to Perspectives in Mobile, the news podcast from the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. Join us discussing the world of telecommunications, technology, and mobile innovations. From Florence, Ricardo Amati.
Between the rise of RCS, the growing importance of APIs, and artificial intelligence making its way into telecom infrastructure, mobile messaging is witnessing a fundamental redefinition of how operators deliver and monetize messaging and voice. But with change comes complexity and rising threats. Fraud is costing the telecom industry billions annually, especially in emerging markets. Regulators are starting to step in. Operators are rethinking infrastructure, and the question isn't just how to modernize, but how to protect revenue while doing it. Today, in a new episode of our Perspectives podcasts dedicated to the winners of the 20th edition of the MEFFYS Awards, the Oscar of the mobile world, we are digging into all of this with VOX Solutions. They won a MEFFY in the anti-fraud category. VOX Solutions is a company working with operators worldwide to secure and optimize their international messaging and voice traffic. Our guests are Teodor Magureanu, who's VOX Solutions Chief of Staff, and Alan Murphy, Vice President of Engineering. Thank you for joining. We'll explore what the shift to next-gen messaging really means, how operators can still win in a world dominated by APIs and programmable infrastructure, and whether SMS is truly dying or just evolving. Plus, what national A2P is, why it's gaining traction, and what operators should be watching most closely in the next 12 months.
Yeah, I can take that. Ricardo, I can take it, and thank you for having us. Well, I think voice dynamic A2P voice is a rising segment for business communication. P2P side less so. On messaging market, on the international side, enterprises are looking for, let's say, cheaper ways to authenticate. Price is the main problem, and we're looking at the rise of IP-based alternatives as the challenger to SMS.
Is this the end of SMS as a meaningful channel, or is it evolving into something else, Alan?
Well, the end of SMS has been predicted for a long time, Rick. I started working with SMS back in, well, I guess we all had it in the late 90s, but we worked it in 2001 in SMS marketing, and it's still around. And I can't see it going away for another few years, even though, as you say, there are quite a few other alternatives coming with OTT channels and even the rise of APIs with Open Gateway. It is still the only ubiquitous channel that exists, that you can contact anybody with a mobile phone in the world. And it will continue to be so, especially in places where, for example, the data connection isn't great. I mean, you talk about Africa, you talk about 5G. I mean, when will 5G be prevalent across Africa, or even 4G? So SMS will still remain relevant, I believe. We see, obviously, the use of SMS for OTPs has been a very common use case, and I can see that is transitioning, and I think we all can see in the market that's been transitioning recently for higher security. And coming from, obviously, a more cybersecurity background, it is something that will improve the security of our subscribers and give that benefit. But that brings opportunities for mobile operators. Mobile operators have that last mile connection with their subscribers. They're the ones who have access to the SIM card, who can ensure cryptographic guarantees that they are talking to the person they say they are. And I think this is where the opportunity will lie as we've transitioned from SMS.
So SMS still around as a meaningful channel, but increasing attention is on APIs and RCS. Are we seeing a fundamental redefinition of the infrastructure, mobile messaging, Teodor?
Yeah. I think the following. I think marketing is a bit ahead of the product. I believe that, sure, We all have a need for secure communication. Business communication will continue to grow. We're looking at different ways for how that can be achieved in a way where the operator has revenue out of it, because that's one of the things that you've mentioned in the start. I believe, I see effort in different countries around the subject, yet I still think it will take few years in order for this to reach scale, at least in especially in developing nations.
About monetizing voice and messaging more effectively, what should mobile operators understand right now? What should they be aware of?
Oh, that's not a question to be answered very shortly, but trying to be concise.
Okay, be long.
No, I think there's two main aspects. There's the commercial aspect and a technology aspect to it. First, on the commercial aspects, if we take a step back, let's understand that the A2P SMS market on the international side had some challenges and has challenges because of high prices. High prices are a driver for fraud, or a driver for faster adoption of alternatives, right? I mean, price just creates an incentive, or cost saving creates incentive for different players in the chain. So with that balanced commercial approach, decent prices, predictable prices, and prices tailored to different brands, because today different international enterprises have different willingness to pay for SDS. That's one thing that we recognize. The second thing, technology. You can really monetize a network without proper technology. You need to safeguard the users, you need to provide adequate quality, and you need to be aware of what's happening into your network.
Alan, how are operators responding, or how they should respond to rising fraud and declining margins, even for competitiveness, which is more and more around? Are most taking the right steps, or there are still gaps, major gaps?
Well, again, as Teodor said, this is both a commercial and a technical discussion. Without the correct technical tools available to you to protect your network from bypass and to be able to implement a commercial strategy, you can't meaningfully do that. And the question is, are most taking the right steps? Well, I think a lot of mobile operators have messaging firewalls and all that, but are they using them to their benefit and using the latest tools to do that? And I would say probably at this stage, no.
I just wanted to go, in depth with national A2P. You were mentioning, Theodore, that what did it? I mean, what's a national A2P and why it's becoming more relevant? If it's possible to answer shortly.
Sure. I mean, if you look at A2P SMS, it has two segments, international and national. National or local A2P SMS refers to communication from national enterprises to users in a given network. So if we look at the financial segment, large in-country retailers, large commerce players within the country, etc. Now, as opposed to international A2P SMS, national has a very different dynamic. The prices have remained low. SMS has remained the, let's say, significant channel that is being used for communication. And, if we look at the financial industry, in many cases, the only channel that is used for any communication that includes details that are sensitive. So with that in mind, national is different, is facing less challenges in international A2P SMS. Yet, I think different organizations acknowledge the fact that IP-based alternatives like WhatsApp for Business routers eventually will also penetrate the national markets. UAE is a good example. A lot of the communication runs on WhatsApp, right, as a platform. But in the vast majority of countries, it is a opportunity. And the reason for that is it's a space that has not really innovated in the past. In many countries, the price has been the same for 15 years and the service has been unchanged. But today we look at different technologies and there's multiple ways to bring value out of SMS. And I think that's what the ecosystem needs to acknowledge. SMS is not dead. SMS just needs to evolve. So, for example, SMS comes in one size fits all, right? One price, irrespective of what you're using it for. Doesn't have to be like that. SMS can mirror the different pricing models that other channels have. The second thing is SMS is not targeted. It's just a channel. Whereas other channels provide this alternative, right? This value. SMS also needs to evolve into that and help, for example, marketeers to be more, precise with what they're doing and higher ROI than just being the channel. So wrapping that up, I think operators can bring more value to SMS and increase the revenue they have for the national side, but also the value they provide to the local place.
Right. For example, the deal that you have with Libya, I mean, Al Jadid, Libya, because it's a difficult situation there. What's the significance of that deal for the regional ecosystem?
Sure. Well, yeah, it's right. We partner with Al Madar in Libya for international ATP SMS, so a commercial partnership where we connect them to enterprises globally, but also we provide technology within the network for that to safeguard users and monetize APSME. So we talk about SMS firewall, Flashco firewall. Alan can tell you more about it. But it's not a partnership that takes input on the national side, only in the international. But the goal of it is help Al Madar go over the challenges that it used to have with previous providers, safeguard users, increase revenue, and bring it to a sustainable path. Because today, when we talk about SMS, we talk about sustainability. So when we go about the commercial practices I was mentioning, it's important to have a long-term play rather than just a short-term deal or SMS where it's deep.
Are you trying to do some similar deal in the near future? Do you have something to tell? Some news?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we have a lot of news, but I think they go out one by one when partners also agree to it. So you'll be hearing a lot about it, but nothing I can disclose today.
Just let us know as soon as you have some news. About what Teodor was saying, Alan. I mean, in some countries more than others, but in general, with this type of agreement, you address issues like unsolicited traffic, flash call fraud, gray routes. How this does work in this type of agreements? Just referring, for example, as an example to the Libyan case, but just in general, if you want, whatever you want to say. The question is about how to address these issues.
Well, addressing the issues, as I mentioned earlier, it comes down to the ability to technically see the messages and apply your policies to those messages to detect that type of fraud. And for a mobile operator, having the infrastructure to do that is the first step. What we and others in the industry provide is that ability to do that, firstly. And secondly, the operational concern, because of course, when you start stopping the fraudsters, they adapt. So you need to be able to continuously see what's happening and update it. Again, going back to the latest kind of state-of-the-art systems, what we provide is something that can analyze what's coming into your network, detect these fraudulent problems, and block it. Traditionally, this was very human-based operations, but now with, I guess, generative AI, you trust more and more that the system can semantically understand what's actually happening for the messages and the calls and that coming in, and ultimately do a better job at protecting it, but also more autonomously doing it. And this is one of the innovations that we've developed in VOX with our Clara platform. So it allows the operator to not have to continuously apply resources, people to doing this when the system can more or less do it itself without the need for continuous retraining. So this helps the environment be a little bit more secure, and as I say, this is kind of state of the art at the moment, going well beyond the manual efforts that all of us have had to do in the last 2 decades, really.
I imagine that securing A2P channels in markets where fraud is rampant but regulatory oversight limited is a big challenge. What are the tools that you have there? Do you use the same tools, or the application is different?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the messaging and voice firewalls are the tools to see everything coming into the network and apply that. You mentioned about regulatory oversight. I mean, ultimately, the regulator can't stop fraud themselves, but they can enable an environment to do that. If a regulator tells the operator, you must stop this, it forces the operator to have to spend money to do that. But in places where there is no regulatory oversight, we can definitely help with that, because again, our commercial model allows us to overcome the capex problem, to get the actual systems in there, and also on the operational side, that we can help ensure that the operator is monetizing the channel, but also using that same system to block fraudulent problems and apply kind of legal or regulatory conditions to the messages coming in.
I see. Still about deals, you closed recently a deal in Jamaica, and it's regarding mainly AI, isn't it? Localized AI. Jamaica is pushing toward this goal, and used companies like VOX for reaching them. What's your view on the role of AI in shaping telecom infrastructure in this kind of markets, Teodor?
Sure. So on Jamaica, you might know something we don't, but I think generally, if you look at the globe, the AI landscape, different countries have different strategies, right? A lot of countries are trying to use some sort of to have a local footprint on it. Happy to enable operators, with that kind of technology. Yet I still believe that in many places regulation is still a little bit, we're still waiting for it to ramp up in order to see exactly how different countries will position themselves in terms of strategy. Where you have very advanced markets like UAE and the neighboring countries within the GCC that seem to have a concrete view on AI, and then there's different layers, right, to how
We would
advanced
need
players.
a United Nations of telco regulation, isn't it, with AI? That would be probably, it's utopia, but it would be something useful probably. From a technical standpoint, Alan, how does AI and edge computing integrate with messaging platform to improve fraud detection and operational efficiency? I must say that, there are many experts saying, oh, with quantum computing, fraudsters will be empowered with something that we can't even imagine. But can we say the same thing from the opposite side, the defense side?
Well, the quantum computing issue is more related to being able to break the encryption, depending on the encryption scheme. So if they record all your messages now, later when they get access to quantum computing, they'll be able to look back at your messages and decrypt them. But I think that's a very good point if you talk about AI and edge computing. At the end of the day, I believe at the end point of this will be that you will have a local AI system on your phone that will be able to receive the message or the voice call and be able to handle it on your behalf. They'll understand your context. Did you want to receive this message from the gym, and therefore is it spam or not? This type of stuff, and I think that's where things will go. And of course, if it's on your handset, it will solve the privacy issue, because as in some countries you can't look at messaging as it passes through the network. But it'll also solve the encryption issue. So as you know, RCS and that is encrypted. So from an edge perspective, I believe that's where it'll end up. At the moment where we are, where messaging firewalls and those are embedded within the network centrally, as we see the traffic going through, AI is bringing a more semantic understanding of what's happening and allowing us to very, very quickly see those new patterns of fraud and close them down quicker than the attackers can adapt to. And I think that's the kind of opportunity that we're exploiting right now with access to this. But as you say, the technology itself brings new challenges because they're not sitting around. They have access to these technologies too, and they will leverage them in any way they can. As you know, from voice cloning, things like that. These are all things that we need to be guarding against as we go forward with our technologies.
While researching for this interview, there was a figure that really impressed me. $1.5 billion annually in Africa alone. The volume of fraud is immense, and that's the cost. How much progress is really being made in curbing telecom fraud at scale?
Well, if you look at it the global view would be surprised even much more with the figure that you have, and fraud still exists significantly still in developed nations as well. But of course, for Africa, it represents a large problem, and if you look at it from an operator standpoint, it's very simple. If we talk about A2P SMS, different operators in Africa can have from, I've seen, up to 15 to 20% of their profit come from A2P SMS. Okay, that's massive. Compare it to, I don't know, 1 to 3% maximum in Europe, 20% in Africa, right? So it's one of the core revenue streams that operators have. So if you take that number and divide it by the operators that exist there, and discuss about what value could that actually bring to the entire companies and ecosystems, it's massive. But you also asked about progress. I think just like any question, there's few flavors to it. You have a fragmented market, right? I mean, every country has few operators, and naturally you have operators that are more advanced in implementing technology and operators that are a bit lagging behind. There's different time within the cycle, but I think good progress is being made with large operators in Africa, and I believe smaller ones will also follow in the next years.
Cloud services, programmable infrastructure, they make telecom converge. What are the most important shifts you expect to see in how voice messaging are delivered in the next 3 to 5 years? Who wants to answer?
Well, I would say, yeah, I mean, this is a continuous debate. We see progress and a lot of buzz around the likes of Open Gateway and RCS. And, at the end of the day, these things will always take longer than we expect them. But in the next 3 to 5 years, I do expect to see, as we've seen already, OTTs to continue, RCS to establish itself, especially in the markets that are more established. And of course, that gives us the dream of removing all these individual apps we have. We can now communicate more directly with the brands, with the enterprises. But actually, I think AI has something to say here, because now that we are all using the likes of ChatGPT, both text and voice, and it can kind of do things for us, that will simplify our interfaces with all these things. So, I mean, yes, we will receive the multimedia rich content on maybe RCS or other OTT channels. But at the end of the day, we just want to book the flight, or we want to do make a complaint to our energy company. And maybe our AIs on our handsets will do that. So maybe that will also have an effect. In terms of APIs and Open Gateway, you need 80 to 90% coverage in a country to really meaningfully do that. I can see OTPs, being shifted over to more secure channels, but in general, the APIs after that, after the fraud use cases and that, they're going to be difficult to establish. So things like boosting your connection because you're playing a game and that type of stuff, these are the sorts of things that may take off, but there's so many different use cases, it's hard to see where that'll land. But again, I go back to messaging and that I think OTTs, RCS will start to establish themselves a little bit more, but it will take a long time, and especially in certain geographies, it'll be even longer than we expect.
Last question. Teodor, what should operators be watching most closely? Just to condense what we said, over the next 12 months, let's say, in terms of risks and opportunities, from your point of view as a company.
Well, risks. Let's start with the risks. I think the main challenges, or they need to be on the lookout in order to be competitive. I think competitive is the right word. If you look about A2P SMS is a channel, right? It's not a monopoly on how to reach the user. So SMS competes with other channels. So positioning into that is very important. And you have the rise of different IP-based channels. And I think in terms of opportunity, I mean, on the flip side of that, I believe as I've mentioned, there is more value to be made out of A2P SMS. So today it's just a channel, but we believe that SMS can do much more. It can be targeted. It can help local enterprises create great advertising campaigns, can be enriched with different data that the operator has, and all in all can start representing actually an advertising channel rather than a communication channel. So in apart from the price of SMS, innovation around how that is made and putting it into different brackets by use case, that's a fundamental, but I believe that's a great opportunity into making SMS a tool for marketing actually and bringing more value to local enterprises, especially on the national side.
Teodor Magureanu, VOX Solutions Chief of Staff, and Alan Murphy, Vice President of Engineering. Thank you for your insights. VOX Solutions won the 20th edition of the MEFFYS Awards, the Oscar of the mobile world, organized by MEF, the Mobile Ecosystem Forum, in the category Anti-Fraud. That's all for this episode. From Riccardo Amati, goodbye and good luck with your work.
Thanks for listening to Perspectives in Mobile. Join us next as we explore telecoms, technology, and mobile innovations. Stay tuned, stay connected, and let's unlock the mobile potential together.